the investment in TJ Sanders we'll get to, and Dwayne Walker. Like, I think that they are
Dwayne Carter.
No, you mean Deion Walker.
Deion Walker. Sorry. Where do you think Dwayne Walker fits in? Like some of those.
Deion Walker.
What? Dwayne Walker.
Deion. Oh my God.
This is the Buffalo Plus Podcast, brought to you by Connors and Ferris.
All right, welcome back to the Buffalo Plus Podcast, presented by Connors and Ferris. Mike Catalana, Dan Fates. I am Jenna Cottrell. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this podcast. We're breaking down the defensive side of the ball. The draft is over. The bulk of free agency is over with. Where the Bills are at now, we know they're in the offseason, the OTAs, that type of stuff coming up. We want to dive into this roster and just kind of see what the Bills have been up to and what we think of where they're at. And also a little bit later, we'll do credit to me as well. So a full podcast. But Mike, I just want to start with you with just your overall thoughts about this defense.
It's an overhaul.
Yeah,
it really is. I was looking at a lot of the guys who were let go or have appeared to be let go. They're not bringing back from last year. And what they did in the draft, what they did in free agency, and it's going to be a different defense in many ways.
Yeah,
and drafting a corner high, all those things that go on, and it needed to be done.
Yeah.
Right, this defense needed that. So I don't think there's any question that's the way they've done it. I will say this again: these guys have gotten tired of hearing me say it. In the draft, you address needs. Doesn't necessarily mean you fill them.
Yes,
that is the hope, right? Both in free agency and in the draft. But they certainly addressed needs in this draft by going so heavy with the defense.
Yeah, and I look at it and I go, I know there is this sense of overhaul, and there seems to be talk of them playing more man.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I just don't know if we'll exactly how much that comes into effect. I don't think that Sean McDermott at this point in his career, which we have applauded him for being able to adapt, I don't think he's going to change his spots and all of a sudden be this team that plays so much man. Nobody played more zone in the league last year than the Bills. I think they're going to work off of that in the coaching additions that they've brought in of the defensive backs coach from New England and the coach from Jacksonville that are like more specialized in man coverage. I think that's just better knowledge to have when you need it. I don't think that's going to change, in my opinion, their philosophy as to who I think they're going to be, especially in the secondary.
I think as an NFL team, you have to evolve, though. And I think this is them evolving. And this is them. And you're right. Like, I expect it to be a lot of zone, but I also do think that the man component is something that the Bills have made some tweaks that seems like they are more apt to be in a position to, when needed, be able to do that. And I think that just speaks to the NFL and how you have to be ahead of the curve. Or if not, you're well behind it. So I think that's something that the Bills...
And they played more man last year. That was part of it. They played it a ton against Baltimore in the playoffs, and it really kind of threw a wrench into some of that. It's good to have. I still think the backbone and the staples of Sean McDermott's defense and Bobby Babbage adding to it, it's just nice to have better maybe techniques, game plans, insight on man, for man coverage when you have to have it, like against, say, a Kansas City where Mahomes has been so good at picking apart zone that you are better prepared to do it.
Yeah.
But I still think, like I said, the spots are still going to be the same.
I don't think they're ahead of the curve. I think they're joining the curve because I think more teams are playing more man.
Yes.
It just is the way the game evolves. Just like we talk about whether it's the run game on offense or bigger on defense, when we went for a long period of time where smaller, quicker players to adapt to the offenses, then the offenses adapt with more physical play, more running plays, and then you got to get a little bigger if you get run over. I think you're right. I think it's funny. What really crushed them last year was having to play those two teams back to back.
Yeah.
Because they are so different offensively in the way they play, and they did really adjust well and did a very good job. And then you play Kansas City where you got to flip the script to play them as the way it ended up turning out. So I think they'll do more. To your point, I don't think they change their identity. I think it's still their identity, but maybe it's 10% more or situationally more to throw the opponent off.
Because I think with some of the hirings and the coaching staff, it's like, oh, this philosophy is going to change. I don't think the philosophy changes. I think that they will be better equipped for when they have to do it.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
No, I hear you. Also, you're right. Like, they're not ahead of the curve. The curve is curving. So they got to jump on, essentially, so they don't get left behind. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about the defensive tackle position just overall. Obviously, the Bills invested a ton in that. They made these signings too as well in the offseason. So what do you make of that position? And where do you kind of want to start with the D-line or D-tackle?
All right. Well, let's just start with Ed Oliver and what he has been for the team. He's a very good player. I think he's been held back by not having exceptional talent around him. I think he's had some good players. I think guys have been good. I'm not saying Ed is a game-breaking, crushing defensive tackle, but he's had moments. And listen, you need help around you. And Daquan, to go off of the two guys that have been there in the middle, is still a good NFL player, but his numbers have come down in terms of snaps. He's getting older. He has been less impactful in that way. And I think that's part of the reason why Ed is a cornerstone guy for them, right? They drafted him in 2019. They paid him.
Yep.
They expect him to be good. I still think he's good and can be very good. I think help around him, and we'll talk about the rookies and the younger guys, I think that would make a big difference.
Yeah, Ed has flashed more than Rousseau has at times of he has the game-breaking ability that you see and still say, like, man, he could be an elite defensive tackle in that game. When he's taken over, it was the Detroit game. No,
it was.
Yeah, where he had the 10 pressures. Like comical. Like the fact that when
he
Ed
loves Detroit.
Yes.
He plays well in Detroit. Yeah.
So you see that and then there are times when, whether it's his physical limitations or some of that, like he's not that eat two double teams guy to free other things up. Like he's got to be that penetrating defensive tackle that people have been saying they need another one of. It's like you have that, you just want to get another one. So yeah, and maybe it's just more that consistency. And McDermott's talked about that over the years, needing Ed to be that on a game to game basis, not once a month wrecking the games.
Yeah. And I think it's that consistency of like, how can we have seen him be impactful. We've seen him play at a high level. How do you just continue that production and then also have it, be more stable, be a guy that can kind of, you can rely on, because we talk about Detroit and all those things of, you see those flashes, you see what he can do. It's just wanting to get the most out of the investment that you made. Obviously he's a top 10 draft pick. They have re-signed him. Like you just want to see that week in, week out.
So we didn't have the greatest weather over the weekend at times. And, I was doing some stuff at home and I'm flipping around on the TV.
Where's he going with this?
Look at what I see. AFC Championship game.
Oh.
And I turned it on. I was late in the game. Now, there were some things about the offense that we'll save that for the next pod when we talk about the Bills offense. But Ed Oliver crushed Mahomes on a play late. And I was looking at him like, man, that is that guy. He got through fast and he gave Mahomes a shot. Mahomes had to get rid of the ball. If you remember, as much grief as they got and deserved, the defense did come up with 2 stops and then held him to a field goal late.
Yes.
Not good enough. We know that.
Right.
But when you're watching at that point, I'm like, that's Ed Oliver. That is the guy. He flew into the backfield and hammered Mahomes.
When Ed is that disruptor, it feels like the whole defense has a different vibe to it. It's like when Aaron Judge is hitting, you're like, okay, like everybody else, like we can all pick it up around him because this guy can carry the defensive line single-handedly. When he has those games in those moments, there feels to be extra juice. It's like he's the play of Jordan Phillips. It's like the actual embodiment of like firing up the crowd. When Ed makes those plays and rides the horse as a celebration, it is a feel of like he's taking over a game. And that's why you have a top 10 pick.
By the way, Jordan Phillips also made a big play in that game.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the third down.
Yeah, all the juice. All right, let's talk about Daquan Jones then. A guy who came back to the Bills, played very well, the injury, and how do you expect him to pan out in this upcoming season?
Well, they definitely are trying to replace him.
Yeah.
I mean,
I looked at the numbers because you always got to look at the dead cap and the numbers. And Daquan is a 9.4 dead cap for this year. Then he's an unrestricted free agent after that. Still carries 3.7 more in dead cap, or would be for the next year. He played a lot of snaps. He played 546 snaps. Came back from the injuries. I still think he's going to be on the team. I don't see a
I
way
agree.
for them to move from him. I don't think they would feel like, as we talk about the younger guys, can eventually take snaps. Now, that may progress that way.
Yeah.
I just hope that for Daquan, that he's got himself healthy, comes back strong, and can still be an impactful player. It would be great if he got spelled a little bit because he is an older player, and there's no question.
Just hasn't been the same since tearing his pec.
Yeah.
Like, it just hasn't been the same. I know he came back at the end of that postseason for that Steelers game and the Chiefs game, but he even said, like, he wasn't 100%. That's such a debilitating injury for a defensive tackle where that's all of your strength. And you just haven't seen it much last year. Fine player, but I think that there's the writings on the wall of whether it's the back nine of your career and understanding, like, I don't know how much tread is left on those tires for Daquan. And I have pretty low expectations as to what you get out of him, just because the investment in TJ Sanders we'll get to, and Dwayne Walker. Like, I think that they are
Dwayne Carter?
No, you mean Deion Walker.
Deion Walker. Sorry, I combined them. How about that? Not my first mess up of the pod. But yeah, I don't know. I guess Daquan's name, I think, is better than what I project his play to be.
So he's 33. Obviously, we mentioned the injury.
Man, that's old.
Do you feel like with a year to kind of rebuild that there is the possibility he can regain some of that strength? Because he does play so well next to Ed.
Yeah.
When he is feeling better.
I will tell you this. As you get older,
so hot in this
they
room.
blame everything on your age. And here we're doing it from a football perspective. But he also
I was saying, like,
No, I'm agreeing with you.
Okay.
I'm saying is it's easy to say, well, he's older and he's shot. Or just isn't what he used to be. But he was hurt and he's coming back from that. And it's a physical position. I guess my point would be if they can keep him a little fresher and not play as many snaps, I think he can still be impactful. And to your point, maybe they get one more better year out, better than last year. And then maybe as these young players come around, they eventually start to take those snaps. I guess you never know the way the league is.
Yeah.
Somebody walks right in and looks like they're the dude.
Well,
they can play.
Yeah.
Well, we do know that a torn pec is not an oil change. So
it's catching strays. This was in the middle of November. The PFF run defense grades and rankings. Daquan was his grade was 49.2. That was 81st out of 124 defensive tackles. Now, again, Ed Oliver was below him, but Ed's not expected to be necessarily the run stopper. Like, he's supposed to be the penetrator. So, like, his play has not a cliff, but it's declined, and you just wonder what's left, I guess, in my opinion. I'm not trying to harp on it. Like, he's hey, what does he always say? It's all about a man whooping another man. So, like, that's what his job's got to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe with the more time, the more rehab, the more strength building, he will be better. Yep. But obviously, like you talked about, I mean, they did a lot at that. Like, they have invested a ton. So talking about investment, Dwayne Carter, 3rd round pick last season, 315 snaps on defense, inactive for the playoffs. Dan, what do you making a lot of head movements? What do you think?
I think that his playing time and job are in question. And again, you're not going to cut him this year because you spent a 3rd round pick on him last season. But they made a lot of moves and added bigger, faster, stronger guys around him. And I don't know. Like, that to me says they're not sure to invest all those. And I know the defensive line, like, it's a rotation and all of these things. But when I started doing this depth chart and I go, they kept 4 defensive tackles on the 53-man roster at the start of last year. It was Dwayne Carter, Austin Johnson, Daquan Jones, and Ed Oliver. Those were the 4 that they went with when they broke training camp. And right now they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 defensive tackles right now as we stand on May 5th. Like, where does he, and again, some of this is projection on what do you think TJ Sanders does? Where do you think Dwayne Walker fits in? Like, some of those
Deion Walker.
I knew it wasn't going to be my last.
Is it age? It's age.
Yeah.
It's causing you issues.
What's your injury?
I guess I look at it and I go, I know it's an overhaul, but they spent free agent capital. They spent money signing Larry Ogunjobi, and then they signed 2 more defensive tackles. Like, to me, that's, if I'm Dwayne Carter, I'm a little bit concerned.
Okay, so you trade back. The Chiefs get Xavier Worthy.
Oh,
We've talked about this a lot. You get Keon, but you added that third.
Trust me, my mentions remind me all the time.
It becomes Dwayne Carter. Now, we've all seen this too. Guys in their first year. I mean, I think Terrell Bernard is a great example. Nothing on defense as a rookie. Nothing. One game with the Jets didn't look good. You're like, oh boy. Comes into the next year, we're like, can this guy play? Because they couldn't figure it out. Well, he can play.
Mm-hmm.
Dwayne Carter's, I think, put on some weight, got bigger. I think that's what they want. He will get every opportunity to earn snaps. They want him to earn snaps on this team. But to your point, what do you say? It's not what they say. It's what they do.
Yeah.
They drafted Sanders. They drafted defensive tackles. Like, they are looking.
I mean, he could be the odd man out.
Right.
Being talked about him being the rotation guy after the draft for Daquan. And I'm kind of sitting there going, well, how long does Daquan stay number 1?
Yeah.
And if you're behind Daquan, where does that put you?
Yeah.
And again, I know a lot of this stuff is, as I joked around before, like the pick your own adventure of draft analysis. So we are projecting what Dwayne Walker,
Deion.
Okay, this is
Wow.
This is record setting.
what Deion Walker, nailed it, could be, and what TJ Sanders could be. But they just seem like these guys have, at the moment, and it's the unknown, but there's more upside, in my opinion, in that spot. You're bringing in the veteran in Ogunjobi, who I know is going to miss the first 6 games, but I just see a lot of defensive tackles. And Dwayne Carter, who had moments in the Jacksonville game. It was the Jacksonville game or the Titans game? The Titans game, they had a big 4th down stop where you went, all right, hey, how about this? But again, inactive. I know he had the injury, all of those things. It's just, again, following their money between the draft capital and the money they spend in free agency. It kind of, there's a lot of guys around him.
Well, you talk about Larry Ogunjobi, another guy we can mention now, suspended for the first 6 games of the season, has never played less than 14 games every year.
And that was his rookie year. He's played 16 or 17 every other year.
Yeah.
So he stays on the field. Not this year, the first 6 games out.
It's a 1-year deal too,
So he was guaranteed $5.4 million. He loses the $2 million of salary guarantee. So they still have $3.4 million. It's $3.4 million. It's not $20 million.
That is correct.
So no, I'm saying
wait.
So
That's
I'm
correct.
saying is that doesn't guarantee him time on the roster.
Mm-hmm.
It would suck to pay that money and get nothing out of the guy.
That would suck.
Right. But
Yeah.
you never know what happens at a certain point, but he's going to miss those 6 games. I'm not saying he's not coming in. I'm saying is it doesn't guarantee him playing time.
Correct.
That's the way I look at it. Even though I think they hope for that. They didn't know what they were going to get in the draft. They didn't know how it was going to fall out. So let's see what happens, man. That is something. When you get that, you not only you lose the 6 games, but you lose the guarantees and that money. Still gets the signing bonus because that was done. But
yeah,
it's a big deal.
All right, next guy we can talk about, TJ Sanders.
Yeah.
Obviously, this year's draft pick, 2nd round pick, all SEC player, 6'4", 297.
They expect him to play.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, he's 2nd round pick on a team that needs defensive line help. He better be ready to. He looks like the kind of guy
moved up to get him
that you can put him out there and say, let's go.
Yeah.
So however they mix up the snaps is going to play itself out. But this is not, even Dwayne Carter last year, it was 3rd round. Like you were hoping he would be more in the rotation and playing. This guy is going in the 40s, right? 41.
Yeah.
Oh, they expect him to play.
Yeah. I think Jenna, when we talked about recapping the draft, I thought this was my favorite pick just because everybody was so set on a one technique. Like this guy is kind of like the Ed Oliver where he can rotate around while also having length, not necessarily the size, of Daquan Jones, not the weight and the the beef of it, but he's the penetrator. He's dynamic and can get up the field. So it's like what Mike talked about. Don't get so set on the size of players to fit positions. Get the 4 best down linemen, put their hands in the ground, and it's about a man whooping another man. That's what this comes down to. So to me, that's where I was like, hey, this has got some upside. Some people thought he could be a first rounder. I know a lot of people thought like he fit what they're trying to do in Buffalo, and I liked it a lot.
Yeah, no, I think he's someone that's one of the guys I always love, going into training camp and you have stuff circled of like which players you really want to see. Obviously the Max Hairston is one of them, but a guy like this, what does he look like? What does he, what does the fit look like? What does he stand out? Does he not stand out? So that's someone that I definitely have circled.
I just laugh when a man is 6'4", 297 and we're talking about him not being that big.
Not big enough. Yeah.
Because the next guy's big.
Yes. Yeah. Deion Walker is 6'7", 331 pounds. The beef, you would say. Now, I do think it's important to mention back injury.
Yeah.
That is substantial.
In the way too early mock drafts after 2024, he was projected a possibility of a top 10 pick. Like generational, this guy is unbelievable. And I've seen some people talk about like, if you like him, don't look at last year's film. Like if you like the size of him, like back injury was a big problem last year. My back would also be hurting if I was 6'7" and 300 and plus pounds. But this guy can be an absolute Chris Jones-like monster. Not in the sense he's not just a space eater. Like he moves well.
Oh, yeah.
For his size, that's rare, which is so encouraging. Where it's like, I remember I tweeted going into day 2, I was like, just get a large human being. Like that's my wish list for the last day of the draft. And I think Bean said there aren't many people on earth that are walking right now like him.
Yeah. So his comp in the NFL was Jordan Phillips. Size-wise, I think he's kind of Kelvin Benjamin. Was that a cheap shot?
Popeyes. That was a stray. Okay, last guy, Zion Logue.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's our Zion Logue talk.
I mean, hey, meritocracy, man.
It's very true. I mean, he was originally drafted by the Falcons and then cut. Then the Bills signed him last year. So we'll see.
The one thing I wanted to try and do with this pod and the way that I looked at it as we evaluate the state of the Bills defense is I thought I wanted to look at the position groups, and I did all of the defensive line together, but I thought highest floor, highest ceiling, lowest floor, lowest ceiling.
Oh,
so that was kind of how I went and looked at this.
So you want to do it for the whole D-line?
I did the whole D-line.
So let's go through the defensive ends, and then you give us your picks, and we'll. But
that was just something that that's what triggered for me with like looking at the state of like, who do you think has the biggest upside? Who do you think has the lowest upside? All of those kind of things was the way that I kind of broke it down.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So highest floor, highest ceiling, lowest floor, lowest ceiling.
Does that make sense?
Do you think the lowest floor and the lowest ceiling though, would that be this? You hope it's not the same player, but you think there's...
No, I have 4 different. I actually have one group applies to 2 of them in my eyes, but I use 3 out of the 4.
Okay. All right. Let's talk defensive end. Greg Rousseau. Start there.
They paid him. Yeah. They have high hopes for
Mike's golden child.
No, I like him. I mean, I'm telling you, I like his physical makeup, and sometimes it takes these guys a little while to really see the production. And just like I said with Ed, he hasn't had the consistency on the other side. It really hasn't. They got nothing out of that other side last year in pass rush. He's got.
What about when
Bosa
Vaughn was really good?
It was a short period of time, 8 games.
And what did Greg do?
Well, we're talking about what? 2020.
I'm just
He was
saying.
a year into the league.
Maybe he's a late bloomer.
It's even.
He's young.
That is a plus. And I'm telling you, you guys.
What's our bet? Let's should we make a bet?
I think
about
I still owe you a 6-pack for the last thing.
Yeah.
Also, we are going to do the Pilates video.
Yes.
I would say this in terms of what he can be. I think here's the way I would describe him. I can say the numbers, but we know sometimes the sack total, like he had 3 in the early game, then he came back, had a few others. I say he looks like the guy they were right to pay. That's my point. And I think that's going to be pretty It'll be obvious one way or the other because now he's been in the league. Now he's had his time in the league. I'm putting that out there that I think he's going to look like a guy they were right to pay.
He said this last offseason.
I don't remember.
Well, they paid him. So Brandon Beane,
they obviously believe
who
that.
knows more than you do, agreed that we got to pay this guy. Why would you? They were going to pay him. It's hard to find pass rushers.
Yeah, just
Do you think that's why they paid him?
just ask Brandon Beane.
Yes.
Yeah.
Shots heard.
There's
There we
that.
go.
All right. Joey Bosa, 1-year deal, 14 games last season, 14 combined the 2 previous years.
Yeah.
Injury concerns, obviously, something that stars out there.
Yeah, I think I was listening to some PFF podcast or the 33rd team, some of that, and they just talked about bubble wrap Bosa and just get him to the postseason.
I don't buy that.
I think he's going to play more than what the expectation is. The NFL is too tough.
Yeah.
To sit there and bubble wrap it. In the preseason, that's something we completely different. Like we've joked around about, like Josh take 5 snaps and then ship him to wherever their first, week 1 game is. But it's too grueling of a sport. And like I said, if it's the big if Bose is healthy, he's been pretty good on the field. Last year, he was talking about he was at 60 to 70% last year. When he's on the field and healthy, I think there's a lot of upside in Joey Bosa, and it doesn't stunt or hold back development of other players with the 1-year deal. Like if Javon Sullivan becomes a guy that can be rotational with him, but I think he replaces AJ Epinesa. I think it's an upgrade at that end alongside of Epinesa. So I liked the move from day one. I thought it made sense.
Yeah. Agreed.
I don't think I sort of understand why people say bubble wrap him for the year. I just don't think you overdo him in individual games, especially September, October. There is a point where he's going to need to be, the games will become more and more important during the year, even in the regular season in the NFL. And I think you want him as a closer.
Yeah.
You want him as a healthy closer. You don't want to be burning him out in September and October and hoping he stays healthy the whole year.
Yeah. It's a fine line of like having him be ready and feel confident and also not overdoing it. And how do you thread that needle? And that's something for the Bills and for Joey Bosa and the training staff and everyone to figure out.
Because we always heard that too about last year with Vaughn. It's like, oh, they're saving him for the playoffs. And then he had like 12 snaps in each playoff game.
Yeah.
And you were like, okay, like it wasn't there. So like to go into this, I think you need to, they always talk about like whether it's the football energy or the football strength, like you can condition all you want. It's different to be in a game. So I expect him to be the starting end on week 1. I expect him to be out there on a lot of all 3 downs because that's what I think you paid him to be, is that guy.
Yeah.
All right. Next guy, AJ Epinesa.
I like AJ. They did both free agency and in the draft find replacements for him. I mean, they gave him the other deal. So he was, because he was a 2nd round guy and he got it.
If they gave him a deal, they must really like him and think that he's going to project to be.
It was a short-term deal.
It was a short-term deal.
And I looked at it and thought, I think he's really got to earn his role on the team this year. I think he sort of fell into it last year. They had hopes that he could he did not create a pass rush at all. His numbers were really low with pressure rates and everything.
Just ask Aaron Rodgers about his pass rush.
Yes, that's right. He got to Rodgers. Yes.
That is file video forever.
I think AJ's been a good team guy. He's flashed some pretty big plays, but just not enough on that side. Now, maybe in a more fitted role for him as more rotational, maybe, but come on. Like you made a lot of moves on. Now we know we're going to talk about Hoyt. We're going to talk about Solomon. We're going to talk about those other guys. They brought in people plus the draft pick. I mean, like they spent some resources.
He's going to get the first 6 games to see what his season looks like. I think he's going to get a lot of snaps with Hoyt out just because of the fact of sheer numbers. And unless Landon Jackson is exceptional in camp, I think they're going to lean a little bit more towards AJ in that spot. And then Spell, obviously, with Solomon and Jackson, those first third of the season. But if it's not impactful at that point, then you kind of know where the future lies with AJ.
Yeah.
And
I think that's
Solomon's
fair.
got to
Is he
show
young?
something too.
No,
AJ's not young anymore.
no, he's not.
Javon Solomon is
Well, he's 26. It's not old.
No.
I mean, he's young.
he'll
He
have a-
actually is decently young.
he'll have a place in the league. It's just I don't know. You don't know how it works out this year, but I'm not.
Second
I
round
think-
pick. Yeah.
Yes. And Javon Solomon is a smaller player.
Oh, we're
And-
going into Javon Solomon.
Well,
okay.
we'll go because we just mentioned him to be playing. He's got to show a lot
Mhm.
because, again, they drafted over him, signed over him,
Yep.
I think. Because if he would have really flashed last year, they might have thought a little bit differently about the defensive end position.
1,000%. I mean, he was a 5th round pick in 2024. 2 sacks. Some time on special teams, though. Defensive snaps. I mean, you would like to think, but also what they did showed you that they felt like they needed reinforcements still. So.
Yeah.
The one thing I like about Solomon moving forward is he is something different than what the rest of the defensive ends are. So he's the short speed bend guy. And a lot of the other guys, Greg 6'6", Landon Jackson 6'6", Bose is a mountain of a man, like all those things where I think he can find a role
Mhm.
as a niche third down edge rusher.
Yeah.
He's not going to be a run stopper. Like that was where he was drafted out of Troy, was because of all of the sacks. I like that he provides something different than what the rest of the defensive ends around him are.
Yeah.
So like that was always the thing, is that like his measurables were kind of like Von's, a little bit shorter, the speed, the bend. I like that for him because that's something that the other guys don't have.
Something different from that side is getting to the quarterback.
That is also true.
Because they didn't do it last year.
That is true.
Yeah.
Well, there is that.
Greg didn't get to the quarterback much either.
He got there. He by far had the best stats for any
That's a
pass
low
rusher.
bar, Michael.
That's where they were.
All right, let's talk Michael Hoyt. 6-game suspension, 3-year deal. So a little bit different, obviously, than Ogunjobi. 17 starts in 2023, 6 sacks, played 17 games each year. So someone that has been reliable out on the field.
Now there's a team that knows how to draft defensive linemen.
that
the
is-
Rams have done a really
they've
good
done
job
a great
with that.
job. Yeah.
And they had Hoyt in that spot where he played on the D-line. Earlier, they had him even playing in like coverage and all. I
Yeah.
think the Bills are going to point him to the quarterback and say, go. I think that is what his strength has been. This suspension really sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, this is bad for him, bad for the team, bad for Bean, bad for everything.
Bean said he did know about it. though.
Yeah. But yes, they stayed with it, but
Yeah.
man, like you bring the guy in, you want to see him hit the ground, and this team, you would look at things differently
Yeah.
coming into it.
You talk about the pressure that's on each individual player, and it's all different. Obviously, like Greg has the big contract, Bosa on a 1-year deal. What is AJ going to provide and those kind of things? I feel like there's a ton of pressure on Hoyt, not only because of the suspension, missing the 6 games, and he seems like a great guy, took accountability, said he was pretty much just lackadaisical and got complacent with his trainer and those kind of the PED suspension. But they paid him a lot.
Yeah.
For a guy that was a rotational piece with the Rams, and I get it, they probably have one of the best front sevens in the NFL,
Yeah.
but that's a lot of money, and being kind of putting his neck out there on this guy, which maybe Rams fans knew much about him. I didn't know who he was. And I know like afterwards you see the clips and this story and that, and like they are putting a lot of expectation as to him being a difference maker on the defense when you put him to that kind of a contract.
Yeah. And like I said, they've basically drafted over him and decided to let him walk at that period of time. But
Correct.
he was productive.
Yes.
He was productive, and he does have that energy. I think he does bring something to this team. I said to you guys, I think he replaces Von in the defense.
Okay. Yeah, I could. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't
As
know.
a pass rushing
Yeah.
guy coming in. I think that's kind of what, I mean, they didn't get a lot out of Von.
Yeah, that's why it's hard to.
It's almost like they replaced Bosa replaced. It's like they got 2 guys to replace AJ. it's like they replaced.
But AJ's still there.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's like
AJ is
because I'm sitting
still
there, it's like,
there.
well, like AJ got replaced on 3rd downs by Bosa, and you're like, or by Von, and then this. Yeah. They got a lot of guys to replace AJ.
I'm fascinated by the rookie.
Landon Jackson, 6'6", 264, 16 sacks over 3 seasons at Arkansas. 3rd round pick, 72nd overall. I loved him. I just think that I see a lot of potential. We'll put it that way. I think he can be a disruptor. I think he has that high motor that's been talked about. I think that that's something I want to see. And I think that when I look at him, he seems like a Bills guy off of the field, and just the skill set that he has and how productive he has been. I think that could, in my eyes, hopefully translate.
Yeah, I think this one made a lot of sense for the Bills to sign him. I think that's also, we can do this, and I know we don't believe in this, great value. Like this was a guy, like,
I just think of the Walmart brand.
Yeah.
No, not that. Like, actually,
no, I know.
Actually great value.
Well,
Yes.
actually.
Well, actually. But you know what I
yeah.
mean.
Yeah.
Another guy with length and size and speed and strength. Like, he has a bunch. I think we talked about it after the draft of, like, I like all the things that he has, like, in his tool belt. Like the fact that he has one inside, he's one outside, he's got speed, he's got length. I liked all that stuff about him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's going to get an opportunity. And you mentioned it before. We talk about this. You play guys on the D-line.
Yeah.
They're going to get chances. And if you're producing and you show you can produce, they're going to get opportunities to see what they can do. So,
and remember, I was talking about last year, they had 4 defensive tackles on the 53. And they actually had, at the time we said they had, right now they have 7. And I know the suspensions are I'm not factoring those in, but last year they had 6 on the 53 going in after training camp. They currently have 6.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Do we want to do highs?
Well, you want to give your...
Yeah, I think the D-line has the highest ceiling. I think that there's, like I said, you look at what Joey Bosa could be, what TJ Sanders could be, what Dwayne Walker.
Deion. Oh my gosh.
Do you know who he's going to go up against? Connor McGovern.
Maybe that's why.
I got to spell it differently or something.
It's spelled Deone.
Just think like
Deion Walker.
Yeah,
he's like their offensive tackle, just spelled differently.
Spell however you want in your head. Just say it right. Mustard.
This might be an
Walker.
all-time record.
Yeah.
That's like 5.
Yeah. He's getting old.
No shit.
Dyslexia is a real thing.
I thought that, no, you can't blame me. I was say that is not
things
that.
To blame.
Okay, so you did.
I thought you were doing individual players.
I thought you were doing individual.
Nope, I didn't. I didn't. Units.
Okay, so let's discuss then. Highest floor. In my head, I would say that would be Ed Oliver. I feel like
that's fair.
You know
I agree with
what
you
he
there.
can be. You know where the floor is at, and that's the highest floor. Highest ceiling.
I think it's Joey Bosa.
Ooh, interesting. I actually want Deion Walker if he's like.
Well, yes, to what you think he can
could
become.
be like but the ceiling's unknown for a proven guy. Yeah,
I'm with Jenna because I think he's a unicorn. Like if his back's healthy and
it could be. That would be a huge thing for them. The reason I bring up Bosa is because he's the guy on this roster that has done it.
Yes,
correct.
That's
before.
fair. I think,
and
again,
healthy.
Yeah.
He could be. Now, and then there's the other side of that because he's dealt with the injuries. But how about if they get a break here? How about if they bring in a guy like this? Yes, that's right. I should use that. And he does stay healthy and he produces that way because it's tough to find.
Yeah.
Like you're spending some money, you're doing it in this way, but let's see if that ends up happening.
So I just did it as the whole.
Yeah.
I just looked at the groups and where they fit these things. I just thought, especially where this defensive line was, I think they have the highest upside because of all the investments they put in. I didn't do individual players.
You made us list all the guys that are like, I didn't do individual players.
I thought that's why we waited. But by the way, what's rattling around in here today?
Okay. Lowest floor.
Lowest floor.
I'm with Zion Logue.
Well, I didn't do this, so I don't know the exercise.
Well, no, I mean, I did it while you were talking. I think lowest floor, Daquan. He's not.
No, I would think Daquan has produced for years in the league.
Yeah, that's fair. I was trying to go for a more proven guy, but you could say like.
See, I didn't do this project, so.
I know. You were the one that made the prompt and then you didn't even do it. Who would you say, Mike, lowest floor?
I mean, it's hard to say that about Javon Solomon. He hasn't really played yet. I would honestly, and I feel like I'm picking on him here, but I would say it's AJ
I
only
think
because
so.
I think he's going to lose snaps. And I think it could end up being a year where he's not a regular rotation
I
guy.
put him as lowest ceiling.
Well, that could be the case too. I mean, because I don't think you expect him to bust out and get,
I agree.
you know.
So I'm curious because AJ and Greg are the same draft class.
No.
No. Okay.
AJ was
2020.
2020.
Greg was 2021.
right.
Okay.
Yep.
They're 1 year different then.
Yeah.
And
That's
you're,
good.
And you're
Wait, hang on.
Do the math.
20 and 21.
But I'm saying you're like, I don't know. It might
That's why
be. It's
people
over
come
for
here.
it's over for AJ. But you're like, I don't know about Greg.
Well, it's
That's
hard
why
to,
people come to the channel.
it is hard to talk about
Ego boost for
floor
them.
and ceiling on some of these guys that
Right.
haven't
That's
played.
why I did it as a
Like-
group.
like like
That's why I did it as a group.
Yeah, that's fair.
like Dante Walker. All right.
But I just mean like,
Oh,
and
off the
I'm
rails.
playing devil's advocate here because I agree. I do think that Greg, he was a first round pick. I think he does have a higher ceiling, all those things. But You're-
Second round. Because somebody's going to correct you. Or
no,
you said-
Greg was a
Greg. I'm sorry.
was a first round
I
pick.
didn't
Correct.
think-
AJ
yes.
was their
AJ
first
was
pick,
their first
but
pick,
it was
yeah.
in the second
Yeah.
round because of Stephon Diggs, whatever. But
Okay.
you're ready to say like it's over for AJ, but you're like Greg.
No, because Greg's not going anywhere. I
Right.
mean, because
Right.
they paid him.
Yes.
Correct. You could do the same argument next year.
Yes.
He's not going anywhere.
He's like still going to be young.
Yeah, still gonna be young. I'm just
Yeah.
saying it's just as devil's advocate of like
We're
AJ
going to get a
is,
Rousseau jersey and hang it up behind you.
Bean and I were
he
together
is a
on this.
very nice guy too. He does
Whoa, we're not questioning God, like their
no, but I'm
personality.
saying like I get why he's easy to root for. I totally
Yeah.
get it.
But they paid him because of
AJ's
his
easy
skill
to root
set.
for too.
I know.
Like, that's why I was
I'm
like,
not-
why are we going to get their character?
No, I'm just like
I'm rooting for all these
I
guys
mean,
to play
yes.
well. Yes.
Contrary to what people
I'm rooting
think.
for Dwayne Walker the most. I know it's Deion. That was a joke.
Was it? No,
It
kidding.
was.
Okay. I
All
thought all right.
So
I
my group as a whole, I said the upside is the highest ceiling is for this D-line. They've spent the most investments into
okay,
it. And
yeah.
I think that the pieces that they've added with what TJ Sanders could be, what Dwayne, nope. No, I meant to say Landon Jackson could be. What I like about this is what you talk about with like wide receivers, like,
Yeah.
oh, you want them to kind of be like that basketball team where they all have a different skill set. I really like what this D line can be and morph into. They have a lot of guys with size, like we talk about on the inside with Deion Walker and Daquan Jones and Dwayne Carter and some
Yeah.
of those guys. And then you have the penetrators like TJ Sanders or Ed Oliver. And then you have length on the outside. And then you have a speed piece like Javon Solomon. Like all of that to me will cause issues in theory to an offensive line. You don't just know that they're just big. They're also fast. They've got length with the speed. They're not just all big, heavy guys. I like that versatility of all of their lengths and sizes on the defensive line. I think that this could be a revamped and an overhauled defensive line. I think could be really good.
complimentary.
And I hope that people are still watching because that was a good point by me after just butchering the last
There are a
5
lot
to
of
6
D
minutes.
names also on the D
Yeah.
line.
Thanks.
So there's that.
I appreciate it.
I'm trying.
thanks.
I'm trying. Should we do credit to me? I feel like we should break this up. There's so
Well, I don't think we need to list every player.
should we cut this out?
Well, here's
No.
what I'm going to tell you. I can say this here. So when we go to linebacker, Terrell Bernard is set. We
Yeah.
know who he is. Matt
they paid him.
Milano. Matt
He's gonna be here.
Milano. Basically, they've created a 1-year deal for him.
Correct.
Yep.
Now, that doesn't mean something couldn't happen, but the plan is, whether they'll tell you or not, is he's going to play this year
Mhm.
and then he's going to move on.
Yep.
I think. So you would say that. But when Milano is healthy, we all know this. His issue is not being healthy. He did look better in the playoffs. Those are your starting linebackers. Everybody knows it from this moment on. And then the guy I think is a key linebacker-wise is Dorian Williams.
Yep.
Does he show them enough to say he can step right in? He'll get snaps this year and play. He'll play teams like he played a lot last year when
Yeah.
Milano was out. But does he show you enough to bring him back, or are they jumping right back in the pool looking for somebody new next year?
Couldn't agree more. And this is my position group I think that has the lowest floor. Because after Bernard, there's questions.
Yeah.
Like
Lowest floor. Okay.
lowest floor. Like this could be if things go bad at linebacker, there's not a ton of depth behind it.
Surprised
like
you didn't say safety.
I'll get to that. I'll
yeah.
get to that in a second.
Okay.
Where I look at this and I say, you hope Milano is what we saw at the end of the season. I think that's the hope. You know what Terrell Bernard is, really, really good linebacker. I liked what Dorian Williams brought. I think he improved from his first year, not as much as Bernard did from 1 to 2,
Right.
but still he was a liability his rookie year in coverage and got better. Not great, but satisfactory. And so that kind of hinges. And again, if Milano's injury history rears its ugly head again, like where are you then? And what if Bernard misses a few more games because he's been injured at times? Like there's a drop off here that's pretty substantial for the linebacker. And I go, if things go wrong at linebacker position, it could go really wrong.
Yeah, they would have to be in the veteran market looking for a guy, because you got Olafosio, who barely played. Joe Andreessen, great story, showed some ability.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Maybe that, in another year. I'm not for Bale Inspector. I think it's going to be a tough sell this year.
Yep.
Free agent after the season.
Yeah,
too.
so I don't know what they end up doing, but to your point, I think it's the most top-heavy position group they have on the whole team.
I agree.
So
like the bottom is low in my opinion. That's why I think that
Milano staying healthy would be just massive for the entire defense.
Massive.
Yeah, agreed. And Terrell Bernard, though. Like, I know obviously it's been Milano that's had the more substantial injuries, but
Bernard gets nicked up a little bit. He's tough. Yeah. He comes back.
Yeah. All right, safeties. Taylor Rapp.
Well, like I said, I talk about them as a whole. This is my position group that I have as the highest floor and the lowest ceiling. I think they're just going to be fine. Best case scenario,
interesting.
They're fine. Worst case scenario, they're fine. I don't see anything of like, wow, look at what these safeties can do. I look them at as trusting Bobby Babbage and Sean McDermott that no matter who's out there, they're going to be coached up to be well. For everybody that was really upset about DeMar Hamlin playing and not liking him on the field, he was still fine. And so I look at whoever's back there. I'm not saying they're going to be game changers. That's why I think they have the lowest ceiling. I don't think they're going to take over games with who they have at safety, but I think they're going to be fine no matter what.
I definitely see how you make the case for that.
I left you all speechless.
I think it's the weakest position on the team.
I think it's linebacker.
Oh,
see, but I think the
guys
starters
that could be exceptional.
Yes,
if they're healthy.
Okay.
I don't see an exceptional
but I see
player.
4 starters.
Boy, but that's because I think the bar is low.
Would you rather have Cam Lewis at safety or would you rather have Balen Spector at linebacker?
But we're talking about the top.
I'm not saying the top is good. I'm saying the depth of the safety position is pretty solid of the 4 safeties.
I hear you, Mike, because I agree. Like the talent with Milano and Bernard is just better than Rapp and
the top. Again, that's why I feel like the safeties are the most middle of middle. There's nothing flashy at the top. And if Cam Lewis had to play a game at safety, I wouldn't be like, they're screwed. If Balen Spector had to play a game at linebacker, I'm going, they're screwed.
Okay. I think Taylor Rapp's a good player. I don't think he's at the level of either of those linebackers, certainly.
I'm not.
And Cole Bishop is not even at the level of Dorian Williams because he just hasn't played enough to show enough. Now, listen, if Dorian Williams comes out and he's the guy that Bean wanted when he picked him, and he's got more knowledge of the defense and plays really well and looks like a version of Micah Hyde back there for you.
Sure.
Awesome. Makes a big difference. Everything jumps. I think a lot of it hinges on him.
100%.
So
you're talking about Cole Bishop?
Yes.
Okay.
Not that DeMar can't jump in there, and he can, and we know he's played. By the way, it's 1 year, $2 million, all guaranteed.
Yeah.
Derek Forrest has started in the league, which is nice to have that as a backup. I'm worried about this position in general.
This is the position I'm probably least worried about. Because last year, when it was the big change and losing Hyde and Poyer, and we all thought this was a defense that for the longest time is built from the back to the front. And how could they adjust without Poyer and Hyde? They were fine. They were not awful. They were fine. They didn't cost you games. Could they have been better? Absolutely. I'm not sitting here saying they're Pro Bowlers and, look at all this. They were fine. DeMar Hamlin was fine. Cole Bishop was young. So I just, if we've learned anything,
I'm young.
If we've learned anything, in my opinion, it's to trust that Bobby Babich and Sean McDermott will have the safeties coached up enough that they won't cost them a game.
Okay.
I'm not saying they're going to make game-changing plays. That is not what I'm saying. I just have the most confident that McDermott and Babich will have the safeties where they need to be, and especially Cole Bishop, a second year in the system.
That would be great.
In a training camp, I think it'd be huge.
Would you say this is your lowest floor grouping for defense? I would agree with that. And you have it as your lowest ceiling?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Corner.
I'm trying to make a Greg Rousseau joke in here, and I can't think of
No.
one.
That's okay. Christian Benford, great. Trey White, obviously you signed his 1-year deal, $2.2 million guaranteed. The 2 injuries that were season ending, what does he have left in the tank? How much do you think the Bills are relying, looking into this season, on him?
I think he is the floor setter. I think you said that even at the draft, like Trey is.
Yeah.
Because Trey's a pro. Trey will be, not that he isn't always motivated. He's comfortable here, in a good way comfortable in Buffalo. Hopefully he's healthy, and that would be great to set the floor. But we've talked about this. They want Hairston to step in and start. There's no question. And he adds a dynamic element to the team.
Mm-hmm.
I think that could be a really nice place to have him and Benford as your top 2 corners. And I think that would be great. And you have Trey on the team. Dane Jackson is a, veteran who's been around. The money is not an issue in terms of it. Hardy that they drafted didn't even get activated in any game. The guy I find 2 guys I find very interesting in this position. I'm not sure what they think of Jamarcus Ingram.
I know.
Yeah, it's tough.
And I would have liked to have seen him, we thought he was going to start in the Detroit game.
Yep.
And then boom, Khair.
Yeah.
So whatever reason, they still had more faith in Khair, and then he played in the Chiefs game. I mean, Ingram moves around a lot.
Yeah.
He plays teams.
Yep.
I think he's on the team. I don't think
Absolutely.
he's going anywhere. And watch out for Dorian Strong. I'm big on him.
So I was listening to one of the podcasts, and they were talking about how the Bills made a concerted effort because they took the kid from Ohio State as well, who can kind of play everywhere. He was the safety, the corner, and played
Jordan Hancock.
Yes, thank you. And so they triple dipped with corners,
right?
Like they went, and the guy was talking about how Dorian Strong was the 6th round pick and all these things and size, and that he didn't run fast, but his shuttle time was insane. Like, it's the agility in the short spaces that is really good, agile, things like that. And they said, yeah, remember the last time the Bills took a corner in the 1st round and in the 6th round? The 6th round guy ended up panning out pretty well, not the 1st round guy. And they were like, no, it's not going to happen with Hairston. Like, that's how we see it. But there's that thought that I'm very intrigued as to what Dorian Strong will be, because it didn't take long at camp until we were all like, who's this Benford kid out of Nova?
Yeah.
Like, this kid's making plays left and right. So be interesting to see, because I do think that is, you talk about meritocracy. We know that just because Maxwell Harrison is the 1st round pick, it does not mean he is going to be handed the starting job. They will want him to 100%.
Yes.
But it was Benford that started over Elam, and it was
Game
right
1.
away. So just think about that when we go into this position where CB2 is wide open.
Because at this time, we were like most other people. We weren't even mentioning Christian Benford.
No.
It was, because you bring in guys like Hardy, and then he never did anything, but you're like, he's a 6th round pick, like whatever.
All right, and then slot, Taryn, Cam Lewis, Jordan Hancock, and obviously they talked about Hancock maybe moving to safety.
Yeah.
So highest floor you had DLine. No, what did you have?
Highest ceiling I had DLine.
That's fair. I agree with that.
Highest floor I had safety, because I just think they're going to be steady. And then I had the corners. It was a toss-up because if Maxwell Harrison hits, like,
They're going to be good.
They're going
Yeah.
to be real good
Yeah.
with Benford and that. So, it's intriguing to see what this secondary, and again, it goes back to what I think the zone coverage, the man coverage, all of those things. I think they can be more versatile this year along with the defensive line and do a lot more things.
Which group has the most pressure? I think we're all going to be in agreement.
It's the
but
D-line.
Yeah. I was gonna say.
With what all that being spent and the investments into it. Yeah.
If you look at it, certainly if you
They
look
gotta
at
get
it
to the
as a group,
quarterback.
yeah. And they to be more impactful in any way in the game to help these other guys out. Terran's one of my favorite players ever covering with the Bills. I think he's been great. He'll be 30 next year.
That's crazy.
I
That
am
is
just
crazy.
saying, this league. And I'm not saying they're looking to replace him. He's so tough. He plays hard.
So tough.
He plays tougher than like his body can sustain.
And
I mean, remember
need
he had the
another guy.
injuries the first couple seasons where you're like, can this
It
kid
was his
stay on the
shoulder.
field?
Yeah,
And
shoulder,
then-
collarbone, and it was wrist
Yeah.
last year. Forearm.
But I think they have a lot of high hopes for Hancock. And
I agree.
Doesn't mean like now,
No, but
this is the way this league works. So
Yeah.
let's see. Let's see what
what's
he's
the
got.
rest of Terran's contract?
So his dead cap after this year is $4.3 million.
Ooh.
So this is where, again, I'll quote Jenna, their actions will show something. They could be redoing Terran during the year.
Mhm.
They got some other ones,
Mhm.
like I mentioned, McGovern, in terms of what they want to do. We'll talk offense in the next podcast, but, they drafted Van Pran Granger as the kind of guy that eventually they might have this idea of doing it. Like they had this whole plan with McGovern. In this case, I'm not saying Taron Johnson, like I said, is a core guy for this team.
Absolutely.
And can still play. So he's not going. But at some point, let's see what they do with because his contract could be one they extend.
Yeah.
If they have that plan.
All right. Credit to me.
Sure.
Go ahead.
We recording this on Monday afternoon. Rough start to my day. I took my kid's multivitamin.
Why is that bad?
I don't know. That's just one of those things where it's like, am I with it?
The vitamin. It was the
Let me
vitamin
tell you
today.
something. I did a podcast one time when I accidentally took, it's not
PM?
a sleeping pill, but it might as well have been. And
What? You never told us
This
this.
was like-
On this pod?
Oh yeah. And
And I'm the one that people say is high.
I kind of was high and I accidentally took it. And I've made a point now that stays in a different drawer because it was accidental. I thought it was the allergy medicine. I just grabbed it. And then I was like, oh no. And I drank a lot of coffee that day. And you guys had no idea.
And there's the open.
That can't be the open.
That's
You guys
unbelievable.
had no idea. You'd ask Jenny.
I mean,
Ask
maybe
Jenny.
we did,
Wait
but
a
we
second,
didn't
because
say
I
anything.
made a comment one time to Jenna where I was like, I think Mike's a little out of it today.
That might have been the day.
Maybe it was that.
rough because I was like,
It was like a Saturday. You came in.
no, it wasn't a Saturday.
Okay,
It
that
was
was
just during the
that was a
week.
different one.
That was another
That was a
time.
different one.
I was probably just hammered.
Yeah.
So go ahead. So you took the kids' vitamins. Was it shaped like Fred Flintstone?
No,
Oh,
but
those are
no,
so chalky.
but we both have like a gummy vitamin.
Oh my God! They keep the gummies.
It was
places.
it was just like I was like, I was taking my greens and this and that, and then I was like, all right, and I took it and I looked down, I was like, that is not my vitamin. So yeah, so that's where I'm not firing on all 100%.
Blame it on the vitamin.
Yeah. But my credit to me is for myself and all the other parents that have to do commutes every morning and dropping the kids off. I'm up to about an hour and a half in the car.
Wow.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Monday, every day but Tuesday was when I watched my two youngest daughters.
No, you're home with your two
Yes,
daughters.
you don't watch.
You don't watch them.
Yeah, that's a good point. Was it daddy daycare day? I say. I have to go from Fairport all the way into Irondequoit, and then I have to drive which is about a 30-minute drive in the morning with traffic. I then go from Irondequoit all the way out to Farmington, which is about 35 minutes on a good day back past my house. With traffic, it turns into like 45, and there's construction now on 490, which is a brutal pain. It's right at my exit. And then I'm 25 minutes back from dropping my kids off at their daycare provider to then back home. So I leave the house at 7:30 in the morning to get Shane to school at 8. And I'm not back home until 9:15, 9:30.
So there's a saying in Rochester, if you live here, that you're 15 minutes from everything, unless you're Dan Fates.
It's just so, yeah, it's just, I'm catching up on podcasts. Like
I was just saying, it's good podcast time.
I am just digesting content, but it is, I get done and we have the ring. And the one day I got out of the car and Renee's like, how was the drop off? And I was like, it's a lot. Like, this is a lot. And you can see me get out of my car and go, when I finally pull in, like the audible sigh of like, yep, this is it. So yeah, that's my credit to me for all the parents that have to do all the drop offs and pickups and everything like that. It's I guess it's a credit to me.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
All right, I'll go second.
Okay.
Or you can.
Yeah, I don't mind. Well,
Go ahead.
okay. I interrupted you.
Yeah.
My credit to me is to my family and friends. I had my bridal shower this past weekend and it was so much fun. Julie, my future mother-in-law, did an amazing job throwing the party. It was great, like above and beyond. Food was banging, very tasty. But no, it was just like so lovely to see so many people in my life that are so meaningful. So yeah, it was a credit to Julie, my family, my friends, because it was such an amazing day. And we're now like we're coming around the corner. We're close to wedding day. Well, close-ish. So
I got to get that ordained minister license.
My friend Mal said it takes 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So
John Doss said it takes.
Yeah.
5 minutes.
Yeah. Did you get a lot of good stuff?
Hey,
people were very generous, which was very
I haven't gotten my
appreciated.
thank you card yet.
For what?
The gift that Renee and I got you. Still waiting on that thank you card.
The party was Saturday.
I would have thought.
It's Monday.
Would have thought Jenna would have been right on that.
No,
I thought Zach would.
No.
You know,
Yeah,
your
Zach
type
would be.
A,
Yes.
I was gonna
fiance.
say, yeah, Zach is the Excel spreadsheet king. All right, go ahead.
All right. My credit to me is I am both mentally and physically ready to pay off the bet. It is time.
Wow.
I lost the bet. It's Pilates time, folks.
Let's go.
So we are going to set it up. We can set it up. We could do it this week, next week. We're going to do it soon. We're going to do it pre-wedding. There is no question.
Oh yeah, I need to be
We'll
in the
have it
gym.
done. Yes. So it's Pilates. Now I'm in it. We talked about this before. It's on me. I finished last. I was a full game behind Dan and 2 games behind Jenna. They beat me fair and square. I have to pay it off. It's Pilates time. So I'm ready. You call your shot.
Okay. All
Proud
right,
of you.
perfect. It's going to be bar as well, Barry.
No, we didn't talk about any of that. I've never,
It's the same thing.
Yeah, no. It's
the same thing.
Yeah.
Barry.
Barry.
It's
I
the
thought it
bar.
was Barry.
It's the bar after the Pilates.
Yes.
That's
No.
what we're doing.
Oh my God. No, not that kind of bar.
Oh, that would make sense.
All right. Well, thank you everyone so much for joining us here on Buffalo Plus. For Mike Catalana and Dan Fates, I'm Jenna Cottrell. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for listening.
Comment in which group or player you think has the lowest floor, lowest ceiling, highest floor, highest ceiling.
Deion.
Yeah.
That's
And make
so
fun of
bad.
Dan for not knowing how to say Deion.
So
What is
bad.
it?
Deion Walker.
Nailed it. Proud of you.
10th
All right.
try.
Thanks for joining us here on Buffalo Plus. We'll catch you next time as Buffalo Plus presented by Connors and Ferris.